The morning sun painted the sky orange over New Haven Colony. Minji ran through the tall grass near the settlement border, her small toy rover rolling behind her. The little machine beeped happily as it followed the 7-year-old girl. Her father Daehyun had built it for her birthday 3 months ago, and it was her most precious possession. "Come on, beeper. Let's explore the blue rocks," Minji called to her toy. The rover's wheels spun faster, trying to keep up with her excitement. New Haven was a peaceful place. Humans had lived here for 3 years alongside the Velthari, the dragon-like beings who had claimed this planet long before humans arrived. At first, everyone thought there would be fighting. The Velthari looked frightening with their massive bodies, sharp claws, and scales that shimmered like metal, but Elder Kyranth, their leader, had agreed to share the planet. The old dragon believed different species could live together in peace. Minji didn't fear the dragons. She had seen them many times from a distance. They were beautiful, she thought, like the pictures of dinosaurs in her books back home. Sometimes they flew overhead, their wings blocking out the sun for a moment. Her mother, Hayun, always waved at them. Her mother studied alien species and believed understanding was the path to friendship. The blue rocks Minji wanted to see were right at the edge of the human zone. Her mother had told her not to go too far, but the rocks were so pretty. They glowed slightly in the sunlight, and Minji wanted to bring one home for her collection. Just a quick look. "Beeper," she whispered to her toy. She didn't notice the shadows moving in the rocky area ahead. 5 young Velthari warriors stepped out from behind the large stones. They were smaller than Elder Kyranth, but still huge compared to Minji. Their scales were bright with youth, colored in reds and golds. The leader, a dragon named Rashek, looked down at the small human child with cold eyes. "Look what we found," Rashek said to his companions. A little human so far from safety. Minji froze. These dragons felt different from the ones she had seen before. There was something mean in their voices. Beeper rolled up beside her and beeped protectively, its small sensor light flashing red to show danger. "Hey, hello," Minji said, trying to remember what her mother taught her about being polite. "I'm Minji. I live in the colony over there." "We know where you live, little soft skin," another dragon said. "You humans think you can just come to our world and take what you want. But Elder Kyranth said we could," Minji started to say. "Elder Kyranth is old and foolish," Rashek interrupted. He moved closer, his shadow covering Minji completely. "He thinks humans are worthy of respect. But you are weak, fragile, you don't belong here." Minji's heart beat fast. She took a step backward and Beeper rolled in front of her, beeping loudly. The little rover's light flashed brighter, as if trying to scare the big dragons away. Rashek laughed. It was not a nice laugh. He looked at the small toy rover with disgust. "Is this supposed to protect you? This tiny machine?" He raised his massive clawed foot. "Let me show you how weak human things are." "No." "Please don't," Minji cried out. "That's mine. My daddy made it for me." Rashek brought his foot down hard. Metal crunched and broke. Sparks flew from Beeper's crushed body. The little rover let out one last sad beep before its light went dark forever. Minji screamed. Tears poured down her face as she dropped to her knees beside her broken toy. She tried to pick up the pieces, cutting her small hands on the sharp metal edges. Blood mixed with her tears. "Minji," a voice called from behind them. Hayun ran toward them as fast as she could. Minji's mother had been looking for her daughter when she heard the scream. She saw the dragon, saw her crying child, and understood immediately what had happened. "Get away from my daughter," Hayun shouted. She wasn't afraid. A mother's love made her brave. She placed herself between Minji and the dragon, spreading her arms wide. Rashek tilted his head, studying this human female who dared to challenge him. In his culture, this was the moment when the weak should run. But Hayun stood firm. "You should teach your child not to wander," Rashek said coldly. "And you should learn your place, human. We are dragons. You are nothing but soft meat and weak bones. You're nothing but a bully," Hayun said clearly, hurting a child's toy to feel strong. "Elder Kyranth will hear about this." Something dangerous flashed in Rashek's eyes. No one spoke to him like that. No one called him weak. He wanted to teach this human female a lesson about respect. His tail whipped around fast, faster than Hayun could react. The impact sent Hayun flying backward. She hit the rocks hard. Minji heard the terrible sound of her mother's body crashing against stone. Hayun fell to the ground and didn't move. Blood spread beneath her head. "Mommy!" Minji's scream was so loud, so full of pain that it echoed across the valley. Birds flew from the trees in fear. Even some of the young dragons took a step back at the raw agony in that small voice. Minji ran to her mother. She shook Hayun's shoulder, begging her to wake up. But her mother's eyes were closed. Her breathing was shallow and wrong-sounding. "Mommy, please wake up. Please, please, please," Minji sobbed. Her small hands were still bleeding from the broken toy. And now they were covered in her mother's blood too. "They broke my toy and hurt my mother. Mommy, wake up!" Rashek and his warriors looked at each other. Something felt wrong suddenly. The child's crying was making them uncomfortable in a way they didn't understand. They were warriors. They had proven their strength. But this didn't feel like victory. "We should go," one of the dragons said quietly. They flew away, leaving Minji alone with her unconscious mother, a broken toy, and a scream that seemed to hang in the air long after they were gone. In the distance, alarms began to sound in the human colony. Dahyun had heard his daughter's scream. So had Bora, Minji's older sister. So had everyone in New Haven. They were coming, running as fast as they could, but the damage was done. And somewhere in the quiet rage of a father who was about to see his injured wife and traumatized daughter, something ancient and terrible in human nature began to wake up, something that the dragons did not yet understand but would soon learn to fear. The prey species was about to remind the galaxy why Earth was called a death world, and why you should never ever hurt a human child's mother in front of them. Dahyun reached his wife and daughter first. His engineering uniform was half unbuttoned from running so fast. When he saw Hayun lying in the blood-stained rocks and little Minji crying over her, something broke inside him. But he didn't scream. He didn't rage. His face became very still and very cold. "Bora, get the medical team here now," he called to his older daughter who had just arrived behind him. Bora was 14 and smart. She immediately activated her communication device and started calling for help. Dahyun knelt beside Hayun. His hands checked her pulse, her breathing, looking for injuries the way all colonists were trained to do. She was alive but badly hurt. Her head was bleeding and he suspected broken ribs from how she breathed. Very carefully he lifted her into his arms. "Daddy, they hurt Mommy," Minji sobbed. "They broke Beeper and then they hurt Mommy because she tried to protect me." "I know, baby." "I know," Dahyun said quietly. His voice was too calm, too controlled. "Can you walk? Stay close to me." The medical team arrived within minutes. They had a floating stretcher and emergency equipment. Dr. Sunho, the colony's head doctor, took over immediately. His face was serious as he examined Hayun. "Head trauma, possible internal bleeding. We need to get her to the medical center right now," Dr. Sunho said. He looked at Dahyun with concern, not just for Hayun, but for the expression he saw on the engineer's face. That expression scared him. By the time they reached the medical center, half the colony had gathered. News traveled fast in small settlements. Everyone knew that the dragons had hurt Hayun and destroyed a child's toy. People stood in quiet groups watching as the medical team rushed Hayun into surgery. Elder Kyranth arrived an hour later. The ancient dragon landed outside the colony with deep respect, not wanting to frighten anyone further. He walked slowly into the settlement, his massive head bowed low. Several colony leaders met him, and he could see the anger in their eyes. "I have heard what happened," Elder Kyranth said, his voice full of shame. "Young Rashek and his foolish warriors have brought dishonor to my people. I come to offer reparations according to our ancient customs. Name your price for this wrong, and it shall be paid." Colony Administrator Jihoon spoke first. "Elder, we appreciate you coming, but this is not something that can be fixed with reparations right now. A mother was seriously injured defending her child. A 7-year-old girl watched it happen. Then what would you have us do?" Elder Kyranth asked. "In our culture, blood debt must be satisfied. I offer Rashek himself to serve your justice." "We'll consider that," Jihoon said carefully. "But right now we need to see if Hayun survives her injuries." Dahyun had been standing quietly at the back of the group. Now he stepped forward. The crowd parted for him. He looked up at the massive dragon elder with eyes that seemed dead inside. "Keep your reparations," Dahyun said in a voice that barely rose above a whisper. "Keep your justice. Keep everything. What's coming now isn't about debt or honor or cultural customs." "Then what is it about, Engineer Dahyun?" Elder Kyranth asked, genuinely confused. "Consequences," Dahyun said simply. Then he turned and walked back toward the medical center where his wife lay fighting for her life. Elder Kyrinth felt something cold settle in his ancient bones. He had lived for 300 years and had seen many species, many wars. That quiet word from a grieving human husband carried more threat than any army. The colony grew strangely quiet over the next few days. Hayun remained unconscious in the medical center, her condition stable but critical. Minji refused to leave her mother's side. She sat in a chair too big for her, holding her mother's hand, sometimes crying quietly. Bora tried to take care of her little sister, bringing food that Minji wouldn't eat, offering comfort that didn't help. Daehyun came and went, spending time with his family but also spending long hours in his workshop. No one knew what he was doing there and no one asked, but something else was happening. Something the Velthari didn't understand at first. The colony's communication array was working overtime. Messages were being sent out to other human colonies, to human space stations, to Earth itself. The story was spreading. A little girl crying, "They broke my toy and hurt my mother," became something more. It became a symbol. On Earth, millions of children heard about Minji. They sent messages, drawings, toys. They asked their parents why the dragons hurt a little girl's mommy. Their parents asked their leaders why nothing was being done. In the Human Defense Fleet headquarters, Admiral Taiyang read the initial report. Then she read it again. Her jaw tightened. She had children of her own, though they were grown now. But she remembered when they were small, remembered how fierce the protective instinct was. She called her senior staff together. Captain Jiwon of the Marines arrived first, a tall woman with scars on her hands from 20 years of service. Dr. Yuna, the fleet's xenopsychology specialist, came next. She understood alien cultures better than anyone. "We have a situation on Verdalis," Admiral Taiyang said, projecting the report for everyone to see. A Velthari warrior attacked a human mother in front of her 7-year-old daughter. The mother is in critical condition. "The child is traumatized. Those dragon bastards," Captain Jiwon muttered. "What are the orders, Admiral?" "We're going to New Haven," Admiral Taiyang said. "Full expeditionary force. 3rd, 7th, and 12th Fleets." "That's 47 ships, Admiral," Dr. Yuna said carefully. "The Velthari might see that as an act of war." "Good," Admiral Taiyang said coldly. "Let them see it coming. Let them have time to think about what they've done." The orders went out. Across human space, warships began to move. They gathered at jump points, forming up into battle groups. Each ship carried Marines, fighters, and enough firepower to turn a planet's surface into glass. Back on Verdalis, the Velthari's long-range sensors detected something approaching. At first, it was just a few ships. Then more, then many more. The young warriors who had followed Rashek started to feel nervous. "It's just a show of force," Rashek said, trying to sound confident. "Humans are weak. They cannot threaten us," but Elder Kyrinth knew better. He had studied human history during the years of peace. He had read about their wars, their capacity for violence when their young were threatened. He had learned about Earth, a planet so dangerous that humans had to become apex predators just to survive. He tried to speak to Rashek, to make him understand the danger. But young warriors rarely listen to old wisdom until it's too late. In the medical center, Minji was still holding her mother's hand when Hayun's eyes finally opened. The little girl gasped with joy. "Mommy, you're awake!" Hayun tried to smile, but pain made it difficult. She looked at her daughter's tear-stained face, at the bandages on Minji's small hands from the broken toy, and something fierce and protective rose in her despite her injuries. "Baby, are you okay?" Hayun whispered. "They broke Beeper, Mommy, and they hurt you so bad." "I know, sweetheart. I know." Hayun pulled her daughter close, ignoring the pain in her ribs. "But you're safe now. That's all that matters." Outside, Daehyun stood looking up at the stars. Bora came to stand beside her father. "Dad, what's going to happen?" she asked. Daehyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "The dragons are about to learn something important about humans, Bora. They think we're weak because we're smaller than them, because we don't have claws or scales. They don't understand that Earth made us strong in different ways." "What ways?" "We learned to plan, to work together, to turn our rage into something cold and patient." He looked at his daughter. "And we learned that there's nothing more dangerous in the universe than a species that loves its children." Above them, the first human warships began to appear in orbit. Their running lights looked like new stars in the sky. More would come, many more, and the dragons were about to discover what humanity had known for thousands of years. Never threaten the young of a species that conquered a death world. The Velthari settlement was in chaos. More human ships appeared in orbit every hour. The dragons had never seen such a massive fleet before. Their sensors counted 47 warships, each bristling with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Rashek stood with his warrior companions trying to look brave, but his scales had lost some of their bright color. Fear did that to young dragons even when they tried to hide it. They cannot touch us, he said, more to convince himself than others. We are Velthari. Our scales can withstand their primitive weapons. Our claws can tear through their metal suits. If they land their soldiers, we will destroy them. But the older dragons weren't so sure. Elder Kyrinth had called a council meeting. The ancient ones gathered in their great hall, a cavern carved from living rock generations ago. They spoke in worried voices about what might happen next. The humans could have attacked already, one elder said. They have enough firepower to eliminate our settlement from orbit. But they wait. Why do they wait? They want us to be afraid, another suggested. This is a terror tactic. Elder Kyrinth shook his massive head. No, humans are doing something far more sophisticated than simple revenge. They are making us think, making us understand the weight of what Rashek did. It was just one female and a child's toy, a younger dragon protested. The silence that followed was cold and deep. Elder Kyrinth's eyes blazed with anger at the young dragon's words. Just? His voice echoed through the cavern. A mother protecting her child is just a female. Do you not remember what our own mothers did for us? Would you call them just females? The young dragon lowered his head in shame. Rashek committed an act that goes against the most basic laws of nature. Elder Kyrinth continued. He harmed a mother defending her young. In any species, that is the most unforgivable crime. Now we will face the consequences, and I fear what those consequences might be. In orbit, Admiral Taeyang stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations, all business and precision. They had been in position for 3 days now, and not a single shot had been fired. Admiral, we're receiving another message from the Velthari, the communications officer reported. Elder Kyrinth requests a meeting. Tell him we will respond when we're ready, Admiral Taeyang said. She looked at Dr. Yuna, who stood beside her. What do you think, Doctor? Are they starting to understand? Dr. Yuna studied the data on her tablet. She had been monitoring Velthari communications, reading their body language through long-range cameras. They're confused and frightened, Dr. Yuna said. Their warrior culture expected immediate retaliation. Our patience is unsettling them more than violence would. The young ones still think they can fight their way out, but the elders know better. Good. Admiral Taeyang turned to Captain Ji-won. Are the Marines ready? Yes, Admiral. 12,000 troops ready for deployment on your order. Captain Ji-won's expression was hard. She had daughters of her own back on Earth. We won't need them for fighting, the Admiral said, but they'll make an impression. Down on the planet, Minji was drawing pictures for her mother. Hyun was getting stronger each day, though she still couldn't leave the medical bed. The little girl drew pictures of flowers and sunshine, trying to make happy things. But sometimes her drawings showed broken toys and sad faces. Daehyun visited every day. He brought Bora with him, and they sat together as a family. But Daehyun's mind was elsewhere. He kept checking his communication device, waiting for something. Daddy, when will the bad dragon say sorry? Minji asked one day. Daehyun looked at his youngest daughter. She was so small, so innocent. The fear in her eyes when she talked about that day broke his heart. I don't know if sorry is enough, baby, he said honestly. But something is going to happen soon. Something important. That evening, Elder Kyrinth tried one more time to offer reparations. He came to the colony's edge alone, showing respect and humility. Administrator Ji-hoon met him with Daehyun and several other colony leaders. Please, Elder Kyrinth said, accept blood debt. Rashek and his warriors will serve the injured family for 10 years. They will provide protection, labor, whatever is needed. This is our highest form of compensation. Daehyun looked up at the massive dragon. The engineer's face was still that frightening mask of calm. You want to give us the dragons who hurt my wife and scared my daughter? Daehyun asked quietly. You want them in our home? Near my children? Elder Kyrinth's head lowered. I understand your reluctance. Then name your terms. We will meet any demand. This isn't about demands anymore, Daehyun said. This is about my 7-year-old daughter who can't sleep without nightmares. This is about my wife who nearly died. This is about a toy that represented my love for my child, crushed under a dragon's foot for no reason except cruelty. I know. I am deeply shamed by— You're about to learn what shame really means, Daehyun interrupted. Because what's coming now isn't our decision. It's humanity's decision. And humanity has very strong feelings about people who hurt children and their mothers. As if his words were a signal, the sky suddenly filled with light. Dropships began descending from orbit. Hundreds of them. They came down in perfect formation, landing in the empty fields near both the human and Velthari settlements. The dragons rushed to see what was happening. What they saw made even the bravest warriors step back. Marines. Thousands of human Marines in powered armor, forming ranks with military precision. Each soldier carried weapons that gleamed in the setting sun. Behind them, heavy equipment rolled out of the larger dropships, tanks, artillery, mobile command centers. It was an army. A full human army had just landed on Verdalis. Rashek and his young warriors stared in disbelief. Suddenly they didn't feel so confident. The humans looked small inside their armor, but there were so many of them, and their weapons looked very advanced. "We can still fight them," one of Rashek's companions said nervously. "Dragons are stronger than humans," but another warrior pointed upward with a trembling claw. "Look at the sky." More ships were descending. Not dropships this time, but atmospheric fighters. They flew in tight formations, their engines roaring like thunder. They circled over both settlements, a clear demonstration of power. Elder Kirinth watched it all with growing dread. This wasn't an invasion. An invasion would have started with bombardment, with immediate attack. This was something else. This was humanity showing the Velthari exactly how much force they had chosen not to use. Yet a single transport landed near the colony's main square. The ramp lowered and Admiral Taeyang walked down, flanked by Captain Jiwon and Dr. Yuna. The Admiral wore her full dress uniform, medals gleaming on her chest. She looked small compared to the dragons, but somehow she commanded all attention. "I am Admiral Taeyang of the Human Defense Fleet," she announced, her voice amplified so everyone could hear. "I have come to address the situation on Verdalis. I request a formal assembly of both species at this location at dawn tomorrow. All parties involved in the incident must attend." Elder Kirinth stepped forward. "Admiral, we are prepared to offer— Dawn tomorrow," Admiral Taeyang repeated firmly. "No negotiations until then. We have much to discuss, and it will be done properly, with both peoples present as witnesses." She turned and walked back up the ramp. The transport lifted off, returning to orbit. That night, no one in either settlement slept well. The dragons whispered among themselves about what might happen. Would the humans demand execution? Exile? Would they start a war? Rashek couldn't sleep at all. For the first time, he truly understood that his actions had consequences far beyond what he had imagined. He had thought he was proving dragon superiority. Instead, he had provoked an entire species. In the human colony, Minji lay in bed next to her mother's hospital bed. Hayun held her daughter close, stroking her hair. "Mommy, are the soldiers here to hurt the dragons?" Minji asked. Hayun was quiet for a moment. "I don't know what will happen, sweetheart. But I know that many people were very upset about what happened to us. Sometimes when someone does something very wrong, the whole community has to respond." "I'm scared," Minji whispered. "I know, baby. But Daddy and I are here. And all those soldiers out there, they came because they care about keeping little girls like you safe. That's what humans do. We protect our children." Outside, Daehyun stood with Bora, watching the Marines set up their camp. The precision, the discipline, the sheer organization of it all was impressive. "They came for us," Bora said quietly. "All these people, all these ships." "Because of what happened to Mom and Minji." "Not just for us," Daehyun replied. "For every human child and parent. To send a message that we won't tolerate this kind of violence against our families." "What message is that?" Daehyun smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "That humanity is done being underestimated. Tomorrow the dragons will learn what we really are, and I think they're going to be very surprised." Dawn came to Verdalis with clear skies and cool wind. The assembly ground was a large flat area between the human colony and the Velthari settlement. Both peoples gathered on opposite sides with a neutral space in the middle. The humans came in organized groups. Colonists stood together, quiet and serious. Behind them, the Marines formed perfect lines in their armor. The display of discipline was intentional. They wanted the dragons to see human organization, human unity. The Velthari came in their traditional way, with elders at the front and warriors behind. Elder Kirenth led them, his ancient scales gleaming in the morning light. Rashek and his 4 companions were forced to stand in front, facing the humans directly. They tried to look proud, but their fear showed in how their tails twitched nervously. Minji held her mother's hand tightly. Hayun was in a wheelchair, still too injured to stand for long periods. Daehyun stood beside them with Bora on the other side. The family unit was complete, and the dragons could see the mother's injuries, the child's frightened face, the father's cold anger. Admiral Taeyang walked into the neutral space. Captain Jiwon and Dr. Yuna accompanied her. The Admiral's boots made sharp sounds on the hard ground. She stopped in the exact center and looked at both groups. "We are here to address a crime," Admiral Taeyang began. Her voice carried clearly in the morning air. 5 Velthari warriors encountered a human child. They destroyed her toy, an object made by her father with love. When her mother came to protect her, they struck that mother and caused severe injuries. The child watched all of this happen. She paused, letting the words sink in. The dragons shifted uncomfortably. Hearing it stated so plainly made the act sound worse than they had considered. "I have reviewed the incident thoroughly," the Admiral continued. "I have consulted with Dr. Yuna, our expert on Velthari culture. I have read Elder Kirenth's offers of reparation. I have listened to the demands of the human colonists." She turned to look directly at Elder Kirenth. "I have a question for you, Elder. In your culture, what is the appropriate response when someone harms a mother protecting her child?" Elder Kirenth's eyes widened. He understood the trap immediately. His voice was heavy when he answered. "In our culture, such an act is unthinkable. Young are sacred to all Velthari. No warrior would harm a mother defending her offspring. It goes against our most ancient laws. Then why did Rashek do it?" Admiral Taeyang asked. The silence was crushing. Rashek's head lowered. He had no answer that would satisfy anyone. "I will tell you why," the Admiral said. "Because he viewed humans as lesser beings. He thought we were weak because we are smaller, because we don't have scales or claws. He thought he could intimidate a child and face no consequences. He was testing whether we were worthy of respect." She turned to face the human colonists now, and many species in the galaxy share this view. They see our soft skin and think we are prey. They see our kindness and mistake it for weakness. They forget that Earth is a death world, and only the strongest species survive there. Admiral Taeyang gestured upward, where the orbital fleet was visible as tiny lights against the blue sky. "I could have ordered the destruction of the Velthari settlement from orbit. 47 warships with enough firepower to turn stone to glass. I could have done this and been justified by human law. An attack on a mother defending her child is among the most serious crimes in our culture." The dragons stirred anxiously. Some of the younger ones looked ready to flee or fight. But Elder Kirenth raised a claw for calm. He wanted to hear what came next. "But we did not come here for destruction," the Admiral said. "We came here to make a point. To show you what humans really are." She looked directly at Rashek. "You wanted to test human strength? Then face this test. What is stronger? The ability to destroy or the ability to choose not to destroy when you have every right to do so?" Rashek didn't answer. He couldn't. Admiral Taeyang signaled to Captain Jiwon. The Marine commander activated a holographic display. It showed a blueprint of something mechanical and beautiful. A toy rover, but enhanced, improved, made with both human and dragon design elements. "For the past 3 days, while my fleet has been in orbit, I have had engineers working on something," the Admiral said. "Human engineers and dragon craftsmen working together. They have been building a new toy for Minji." Gasps came from both groups. No one had expected this. "The design uses human technology for the mechanical parts," Admiral Taeyang explained. "But the hull is made from dragon-forged metal, crafted by Velthari artisans. It is stronger than the original, more beautiful, and it represents what both our species can create when we work together instead of destroying each other." She turned to Dr. Yuna. The xenopsychologist stepped forward, holding a data tablet. "We have also consulted with your healers," Dr. Yuna said, addressing the dragons. "Velthari healing saliva has regenerative properties. Combined with human medical technology, we believe we can fully heal Hayun's injuries. She will be able to walk without pain, play with her children again, return to her work." Elder Kirenth's eyes filled with tears. In 300 years of life, he had never seen mercy like this. "But there are conditions," Admiral Taeyang said. her voice becoming firm again. Rashek and his warriors must help build the toy. They must work with the human engineers. They must learn that their strength should be used to create, not destroy. They must understand what they broke, not just a toy, but trust, innocence, and safety. She walked closer to Rashek, looking up at the massive dragon. You will work alongside the humans you consider weak. You will take orders from the engineers you despise. You will use your claws carefully, precisely to build something that brings joy instead of pain.
Can you do this?
Rashek wanted to refuse. His pride demanded it, but he looked at the fleet in orbit, at the thousands of Marines ready to fight, at the cold fury in Daehyun's eyes. He understood that he was being offered something precious, a chance to make things right instead of facing destruction. Yes, Rashek said quietly.
I will do this. Louder, Admiral Taeyang commanded.
So everyone can hear. Yes. Rashek's voice carried across the assembly ground. I will build the toy. I will help heal the mother. I will learn. Admiral Taeyang turned to Minji and her family. This is not our decision alone to make. The offense was against your family. Daehyun, Hayun, do you accept these terms? Daehyun looked at his wife. Hayun looked at Minji. The little girl's eyes were wide as she tried to understand what was happening. Sweetheart, Hayun said gently, the dragons want to make you a new toy. They want to help me get better. But only if you say it's okay. What do you think? Minji was quiet for a long moment. She looked at Rashek and saw something she hadn't seen before. The dragon looked sorry. Really, truly sorry. His head was low, his scales dull with shame. Will the new toy be nice? Minji asked in her small voice. The nicest toy you've ever seen, Dr. Yuna promised. And Mommy will be all better. Yes, baby, Hayun said. Minji thought hard. Then she said, okay, but they have to be nice from now on. A collective breath released from both groups. Admiral Taeyang nodded with satisfaction. Then it is decided, she announced. Rashek and his warriors will work under human supervision to create the new toy and assist in Hayun's healing. This will take approximately 2 weeks. During this time, my fleet will remain in orbit. If there is any threat, any violence, any failure to complete this task, the consequences will be severe. She looked at Elder Carinth. Do you understand, Elder? I understand, Admiral, Elder Carinth said. And I thank you for your mercy. This is more than we deserve. It's not mercy, Admiral Taeyang corrected. It's a lesson. We are teaching you what humanity truly is. We are not weak. We are not prey. We are a species that conquered a death world by learning when to fight and when to build, by understanding that true strength is protecting what we love, not destroying what others love. The assembly ended. Both groups dispersed slowly, talking among themselves. The Marines began setting up a workspace where the toy would be built. Engineers from the colony came to help, and reluctantly, Rashek and his warriors followed Captain Jiwon to begin their work. Daehyun watched them go. Bora stood beside him. Do you think they'll actually learn? She asked her father. Daehyun considered the question. I think they'll learn that underestimating humans is the biggest mistake any species can make. And maybe, just maybe, they'll learn that creating something beautiful is harder and more meaningful than destroying it. Above them, the fleet maintained its vigil, a reminder that mercy had been given, but justice remained ready if needed. The dragons had been given a chance to understand humanity. Now everyone would see if they were wise enough to take it. The first day of work was terrible for Rashek. He had never built anything in his life. Dragons were warriors, hunters, fighters. Their strength was meant for conquest, not construction. Now he stood in a workshop surrounded by human engineers who gave him instructions in calm, patient voices. Careful with that panel, said Minho, the lead engineer. He was an older human with gray hair and gentle eyes. It needs to fit exactly right or the circuits won't connect. Rashek's massive claws were designed to tear and crush. Making them hold delicate tools and work with precision was incredibly difficult. He kept breaking things by accident, getting frustrated, wanting to quit. I cannot do this, he growled after breaking his third circuit board. My claws are too large, too clumsy for this tiny work. Minho looked up at the dragon calmly. My daughter used to say the same thing when I taught her to build models. She had small hands but said they were too clumsy. I told her that precision isn't about size. It's about patience and practice. Where is your daughter now? Rashek asked. Minho's face became sad. She died 5 years ago. Accident on a transport ship. She was 7 years old. Rashek stopped moving. He looked at this human who had lost a daughter the same age as Minji yet spoke to him without hatred. "How can you stand to help me?" Rashek asked quietly. "I hurt a child and her mother. You lost your own child. You should want me dead." Minho picked up the broken circuit board and examined it. "I did want revenge once. When my daughter died, I was so angry at the universe. But revenge wouldn't bring her back. So I chose to honor her memory by building things that make children happy. That's what she would have wanted." He handed Rashek a new circuit board. "Try again. Slower this time. Breathe and focus." Something changed in Rashek that day. He began to understand that human strength wasn't just about fighting or mercy. It was about choosing purpose over pain. The other dragons worked on different parts of the toy. One worked with a Velthari craftsman to forge the special metal hull. Another learned to paint the decorative scales that would make the toy beautiful. They all struggled at first, but gradually improved. Captain Jiwon supervised the work. She walked through the workshop regularly, her marine armor gleaming. A reminder that this was still a condition of avoiding worse consequences. But she also offered advice, showed them techniques, treated them firmly but fairly. "Why do you do this?" one of the young dragons asked her. "You have the power to simply punish us. Why make us build?" Captain Jiwon looked at the dragon thoughtfully. "Because punishment doesn't teach understanding. You need to feel what creation is like, to know the patience, care, and love that goes into making something for a child. Then maybe you'll think twice before destroying such things again." Meanwhile, Velthari healers worked with Dr. Sunho to treat Hyun. The dragon healers brought their traditional saliva, which had powerful regenerative properties. Mixed with human medical technology, the results were remarkable. Hyun's broken bones healed faster and stronger. The head injury that had worried everyone began to improve dramatically. "This is amazing," Dr. Sunho said, reviewing the scans. "The combination of our two species' medical knowledge is creating something neither could achieve alone." Elder Kiranth visited the medical center often. He spoke with Hyun when she was strong enough, apologizing repeatedly for what his people had done. "I raised Rashek since he was a hatchling," the old dragon said sadly. "I thought I taught him honor and respect. But I failed to teach him humility, failed to help him understand that strength without wisdom is just cruelty." Hyun, despite her pain, felt sympathy for the ancient creature. "He's young. Young people make mistakes. What matters is whether they learn from them." "Your kindness humbles me," Elder Kiranth said. "After what we did to you, you still speak with compassion." "I'm angry," Hyun admitted. "I'm angry that I was hurt, that my daughter was traumatized, that her toy was destroyed. But I'm also a scientist. I study species and cultures. I know that understanding is the only path to real peace." Days passed. The toy took shape. It was beautiful. Sleek human engineering covered in iridescent dragon-forged scales that caught light like a rainbow. The wheels were precise mechanisms that could handle any terrain. The sensor array was more advanced than the original, and carved into the hull were small artistic flourishes that showed the dragon craftsman's skill. Rashek worked on it every day. His claws became more precise with practice. He learned to use tools designed for human hands, adapting his massive strength to delicate tasks. And something unexpected happened. He began to take pride in the work. "Look," he said to Minho one day, showing a perfectly installed circuit panel. "I did this without breaking it," Minho smiled. "You're learning. My daughter would have been proud of how hard you're trying." Those words meant more to Rashek than any praise from warriors. He was earning respect not through violence, but through dedication and growth. Minji visited the workshop sometimes with Bora. She watched from a safe distance as the dragons worked on her new toy. Rashek always lowered his head when she came, showing submission and respect. He never spoke to her directly, knowing he had no right to her attention or forgiveness. But one day Minji walked closer. Bora held her hand, ready to pull her back if needed. Marine stood nearby, watching carefully. "Is that my new toy?" Minji asked quietly. Rashek froze. He didn't dare look at her. "Yes, little one. We are building it for you, to replace what I destroyed." "It's pretty," Minji said. "The colors are nice." "Thank you," Rashek whispered. "I am sorry. I am so sorry for what I did." Minji didn't respond. She just looked at the toy for a while, then walked away with Bora. But something in her expression had softened slightly. Not forgiveness yet, but perhaps the beginning of understanding that the dragon was truly trying to change. 2 weeks passed. The toy was completed. It was a masterpiece combining human technology and dragon artistry into something unique and wonderful. The medical treatment was also finished. Hayun could walk without pain now, her injuries fully healed. Admiral Taeyang called for a second assembly. Again, both species gathered, but this time the atmosphere was different. Less tense, more curious. The new toy rover was presented on a table for everyone to see. It gleamed in the sunlight, beautiful and perfect. The work is complete, Admiral Taeyang announced. Rashek and his warriors have fulfilled their task. The question now is whether the family accepts this offering. Daehyun stepped forward. He examined the toy carefully, checking every detail with an engineer's eye. His expression remained neutral. Then he looked at Rashek. "You built this?" "Yes, with help from your engineers and our craftsmen." "I built it," Rashek said. "It's good work," Daehyun admitted. "Better than the original in many ways." He picked up the toy and brought it to Minji. The little girl's eyes went wide with wonder. "What do you think, baby?" Daehyun asked. Minji reached out and touched the iridescent scales on the hull. The toy beeped softly, recognizing her touch. Its lights came on, glowing warmly. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Can I keep it?" "That's up to you," Hayun said, kneeling beside her daughter. "Rashek made this for you. To say sorry. Do you accept his apology?" Minji looked at the dragon. Rashek looked so different now. His scales were brighter, his eyes clearer. He didn't look mean anymore. He looked sad and hopeful. "Did you work really hard on this?" Minji asked him. "Every day," Rashek said. "I learned to use my claws carefully. To build instead of break. Your engineer Minho taught me patience. I learned that creating something is much harder than destroying it. And much more meaningful." Minji hugged the new toy to her chest. Then she said something that made everyone hold their breath. "Okay, I accept. But you have to promise to never hurt anyone's mommy again." "I promise," Rashek said immediately. "I swear on my honor as a Velthari warrior that I will never again harm someone protecting their child. I will use my strength to protect, not to hurt." Elder Kyrenth stepped forward. "I declare before both our peoples that Rashek and his warriors are now oath-bound to the human family. In our culture, this is the highest honor. They are now kin to the humans they wronged." Admiral Taeyang nodded with satisfaction. "Then my fleet will withdraw. But understand this, all of you. This story will be told across the galaxy. Every species will hear about what happened here. About a little girl who cried for her mother. About dragons who learned humility. And about humans who chose to teach rather than destroy." She looked at both groups. "We are stronger together than apart. This toy proves it. Hayun's healing proves it. Let this be the beginning of true understanding between our peoples." The fleet departed over the next few days. The Marines packed up their equipment and returned to orbit. The warships jumped back into FTL, leaving Verdalis peaceful once more. But everything had changed. Rashek asked permission to stay near the human colony. He wanted to continue learning, continue growing. Elder Kyrenth approved, seeing that the young warrior was finally maturing into someone wise. Minji played with her new toy every day. Sometimes Rashek watched from a distance, finding joy in seeing the happiness that his work had created. Occasionally, Minji would let him play with her. Those moments were precious to him years past. Minji grew up strong and brave. She became a peacekeeper,